Tell us your name, where you're from, and how old you are.
So my name's Johnny. I am originally from Starkville. Live in Columbus. I'm 29 years old.
Nice. Okay. And what's the point in this? Why did you say yes?
Just be able to help somebody, and anybody. If somebody hears something and they latch onto it, then maybe it'll help.
Do you have a specific sobriety date?
I do. Specifically, it is Thursday, August the 13th, 2015.
Sweet. You got some time. Tell us about how and where you grew up.
So I grew up in Starkville, and I guess I grew up fairly well. I mean, I had a decent, I had a really good childhood, actually. My parents, I don't know, we weren't like middle class. I don't know, we were poor, but I didn't know it. I never went without the things that I needed, you know. Growing up was fun, you know. I mean, it was a time before, I guess the world was crazier, you know.
Did you? I guess we'll go down. It says like, let's get down to business. When did you take or have your first? Let's try again. What drugs did you use?
What drugs did I use? I used every drug that I could get my hands on. Specifically anything that kept me going, but if you had downers, I would take that too.
Anything specific?
Specific, I started with cocaine. I fell in love with that. And then came meth because it was cheaper. And then I found crack. And I literally like turned into a crackhead, you know. I loved everything about it.
Let's see. Tell me about your first experience.
My first experience with drugs probably, I don't know, probably like middle school, maybe, like 7th grade. I was given I was given some Oxycontin like the night before a band meet. I can't remember where it was. It was in Alabama, but the night before, and I took them that night. There was 2 of them, and I took them, and I felt great up until being out in the heat on that marching field in my uniform. But that really like set off that I love this feeling thing, you know.
What instrument did you play?
What I played the French horn, actually, yeah. But it was good though. I was the only one. It's always first chair.
Oxycontin French horn.
Oxycontin French horn, yeah.
Okay. So let's go through the progression. Like,
Okay.
So you tried the Oxycontin. Where did it go from there?
Well, you know, there was always like a staple, I guess, of like alcohol. But as far as like my drug use, I learned that I could get weed easier, obviously, because I was still kind of like young and naive and didn't know anything about the art of buying drugs, you know, and so I smoked weed a lot, and I kind of got made fun of it, you know, like in high school, like, oh, you're throwing a butthead. But I was also like the fat kid that always got picked on, you know, and I was in the band, and so I was very unpopular, and like smoking pot and drinking, you know, really kind of like gave me that self-esteem boost, I suppose. But as far as like the progression, man, it was shortly after high school. I started working in a bar my senior year, like the second half of my senior year in high school. Working the front door. But I found that there were so many more drugs than I knew about. And I wanted to try them all. Like, if it was new and I hadn't tried it, I wanted it. you know, and I wanted to get my hands on it, and I wanted to find out what it was about. Um, you know, and then through college, I don't remember much of college, but through college, I did a lot of drugs, and found out the best way that I could do that was to like work in an industry that allowed me to party all the time, and so that's what I did. Um, I worked as a DJ and a manager in the adult entertainment industry for about 8 years.
And where was this specific location that I may have been?
I started at a local club just outside of Starkville. Um, my One of my dreams when I was younger was like to be a rock star. You know, turns out I wasn't as good at playing guitar as I thought that I was, but I could still make people have fun, and I could still, you know, do that with music, which I really enjoyed. Um, and then that progressed. You know, I started making a name for myself, and all these other clubs called me. And I moved to Memphis and worked at 4 or 5 clubs up there. You know, and I had the time of my life. You know, I worked in various clubs. You know, like nightly here and there in this state and that state, until I came back down here in mid Mississippi, and that was fast forward so many years. But
Was it heavier down here than it was up there?
Memphis was probably the heaviest. Actually, Memphis was probably the heaviest. I mean, I could spend a ton of money a night. I mean, I think at one point I was doing just under a quarter ounce cocaine a night. Like, but I would make that money back, so it didn't bother me, you know.
So we were kind of talking about it. Were you just buying a bunch, or were you selling? What were you doing?
Well, after it progressed to I guess the not fun, or the stage where I just felt trapped. You know, I started kind of like lying to my dealers and telling them that I was selling it. You know, so I could get more. You know, and maybe get it cheaper. You know, but I never really sold anything.
Okay, all right, didn't sell. What did you lose in your addiction?
What did I not lose? Materials, everything. Relationships with family. I think I burned every bridge with my family that I could burn. I lost friends. I lost jobs. I lost relationships left and right. I mean, it's just like, I don't know, it was like being on one of those old like rickety rope bridges and just seeing everything in my life just fall off the side, you know.
How did your family cope? Were you even in ties with them while you were using?
Early on, I thought that I was hiding it fairly well. I don't really know how they felt about it. I know how my brother felt about it because he told me all the time, but they just didn't really say much to me. They just kind of just distanced themselves, and that's probably because I was pushing them away. You know, I cut those ties, and I felt like no help. You know.
Now, I don't want this to be too much, but can you tell me some sort of traumatic story? Do you have anything specific that hits you in the face?
I think my descent into hell started when I had to watch my mom die. She had leukemia, and when you treat leukemia, you have to kill off all the white blood cells, so you can like attack the leukemia. So you're pretty much left there defenseless. And when they were doing that, she got pneumonia, which apparently is kind of common. But they had to stop fighting the leukemia and fight that pneumonia, and it just came back rampant. And it came to that point. She said that she didn't want to be a vegetable, and yeah, maybe that's the wrong choice of words, but she was. And to describe it, I don't know if you've ever seen a fish out of water, but like swollen and glazed over eyes and just gasping for air. That was my mom laying on that bed. And it came time to turn the equipment off. And I mean, that was 2009, and it just, the bottom fell out for me. Shortly afterwards, I tried to kill myself. And that didn't work. I was mad about it. And so I just really didn't care about life at that point. I lived how I wanted to live, from then on.
Thank you for that. When did you know you had a problem? Did anyone ever tell you?
I think it took a while for me to realize that that I had a problem, and people told me in various ways. Actually, I had people tell me, do as many drugs as you want, just quit drinking. My brother even told me, he looked at me one day and he said, what all drugs are you on? People wanted to pray it away. People told me in various ways that I had problems with this or that. I could just never admit it. I could tell you, and joke with you that, yeah, like, I'm totally an alcoholic. I can drink you under the table, or, I've snorted more, I've done more than anybody has ever done. But I never thought that was a problem.
Did you, so why did you decide to stop?
My reasons for stopping were 100% selfish. And the the motives behind them were not for any other good reason. There was one particular relationship that I wanted back, and I thought that if I could stop, I could have that back, and everything would be okay. Or, I didn't want it for me. I wanted it for somebody else. And I wanted it because that somebody would have fixed everything.
So then, give me the process of how you stopped. Like last time to where you went.
Well, the process, I guess, I was sitting in a hotel room, and it was, I don't know, early hours, and I was perched up on the little, I don't know, sink thing that all hotel rooms have, that giant mirror. That's just where I was sitting, smoking crack. And I looked over at myself, and I didn't realize what I was looking at. I had no idea what was in that mirror. It wasn't me. And it wasn't too long after that I started talking to that person that was going to fix everything again. Maybe I need some help. And I told my brother, I was like, I'm ready. I want to come back home. I don't want to do this anymore. And he let me come back. He had kicked me out of our grandmother's house. And I was mad about it, and I was hurt, but I wanted to come back. I wanted to be done, and so he let me come back. And I remember I was walking to the liquor store from my grandmother's house after having, I don't know, lifting about $5 worth of quarters out of her, um, change cup, so I could go buy a pint. And I'd gone to the liquor store, and I was walking back, um, and I called this person because she had been in treatment before, and I said, um, what did you do? Where did you go? I wanted to know. I was curious, which is weird because never in my life had I wanted to stop. Like actually wanted to stop, Um, and she sent me a number to a rehab in Columbus, and I called right there when she sent me the number. And I can't remember who answered the phone, but I said, I think I need to come stay with you guys for a little bit. And it just kind of went from there.
So after you got out of rehab, what was kind of, I guess, just walk me through after rehab. How did you stay out of the dark side?
After rehab, I thought that I could go for 30 days and then come out and drink and smoke crack like a normal person. But somehow, somewhere in those last few days, I was like, you know what, I'll stay for 90. So I stayed for the 90 days, and then, after that, I stayed for a little while at a halfway house, and after that, I kind of roughed it for like another 3 or 4 months, and my roommate at the time was using very heavily. I mean, like crawling on the roof using, and it just got to this jumping off place where it was like, I'm either gonna go back or I'm gonna do something 100%. I can't live in this fear anymore. And that was a shaky 6 months, but I made that decision then to call somebody else, to ask for help again. And I started 136% working a program that day.
So now, why are you staying sober? What's the point?
The point of staying sober?
For you?
The point of staying sober, I think, for me, maybe a little selfish, but to prove that I can do it. But I also want to live a better life. I want to help other people be sober. I want to help other people get sober the way that I was helped. There were people there for me when I really needed that hand out. And I want to be that hand today.
So then what is life like now?
Oh, life's fantastic now, man. I would have 100% sold myself short if I wrote down everything that I wanted out of life. Today is there's no fear like there was. I feel like I'm a normal member of society. Maybe not normal, but productive at least. Today is great. I mean, there are bad days, but I tell you, man, they're not near as bad as they were.
So you're mostly happier now, or do you think what would happen if you ever decided to revisit the old drugger?
If I I'd be dead. I don't think that there's any other option. And it might not be instantly. But if I have a drink today, then tonight I'm going to find something else. And I'm going to run out, and I'm going to need more tomorrow. and the next day. And I don't know if I can do it. I mean, I beat myself up. I mean, over 11 years, 12 years, I mean, I beat myself up. And I just don't know that I would be alive.
You have any cool goals you're reaching in the next year or so?
Any cool goals?
Or any plans?
Oh, man. I don't really know. It's funny that you asked that because every goal that I've actually just ever had, I've already met in sobriety. You know, and that's really cool. And it kind of leaves me, I don't know, like in space, I guess, like just kind of floating around. But I'm enjoying space, you know, and whatever happens today, and whatever happens tomorrow, I'll deal with then.
I love it. So I'm going to end it on here, but if you could give a piece of advice to somebody who is right now suffering, what would it be?
Reach out, you know. There are people that have been through these things. There are people that are willing to help, and not because they want something. There are people that know what you're going through. And if I hadn't reached out, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you today. You know, that was a big chunk of pride that I had to swallow. But I'm so glad that I did it.
That's awesome. Anything else you want to put on the record?
I think that's probably it.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you.